What's up, guys? We are back with a top 10 list for the kind of mid-year 2020. So I wanted to take stock of everything that has come out this year so far and just kind of put my thoughts out there as far as what my favorite 10 figures are, but with a little bit of a twist, kind of locking it down, so to speak. So the top 10 list, like, this is certainly a list of 10 of my most favorite figures so far this year that I have gotten a hold of, and all of them have been reviewed, but it's only allowing one per license. So there's not going to be multiple Marvel Legends, there's not going to be multiple Star Wars figures, even between different brands, so no Black Series and Figure Arts, it's going to be one or the other. Same for like Masters of the Universe, no Super 7 and Mattel, it's just going to be one of them. Just to kind of keep it locked down and be as varied as possible while not necessarily locking myself in to what is maybe half of my top 10 list for the end of the year. So it's my top 10 figures with, you know, a caveat there. So let's get started, and this is the first Figure Arts, and only Figure Arts, it's going to appear on the list at number 10, and my most recent Figure Arts, I suppose, as far as you know, the last batch that I got. So we're talking about Freddie Mercury. This is the Live Aid version, the one that I reviewed pretty recently, and there's nothing exactly technically amazing about this figure. It's just so fun. I never expected to have this much fun with this figure, and it's one of those figures that I got a hold of. I could not put it down. I took a million pictures of it, put it in all sorts of weird kind of poses and team-ups with other figures, but it's awesome on its own, and it's also one of those figures that made me want to go back and get other Figure Arts just like him, like the original Freddie Mercury or some of the other Music Line figures from Figure Arts. So this guy was really fun and a humongous surprise. I don't know if he's going to last until the end of the year, but for right now, this figure has pretty much not left my workspace, my desk. It's basically everywhere when it comes to toys right now because it goes so well with just about everything and is fantastic on its own. Number 9 is a Super 7 figure that I was really excited for, don't get me wrong, but it kind of blew me away at how amazing it is, and I said it in the review for this guy. This is kind of the barometer for what we're going to see with the nasty, wacky designs that were in the Playmates TMNT line brought into the Ultimates line for Super 7. So of course I'm talking about Toxie, the Toxic Crusader, and this thing is, I mean, it's basically a perfect recreation of the vintage Playmates toy, just done up in an Ultimate style. It has all of the accessories, all of the gruesome detail, all of the wacky paint, and he's even got a bonus glow-in-the-dark eye that, as best I can tell, was never advertised. He comes with a little buddy, and it's just an awesome-looking figure. It has that Motu classic style articulation that, while, let's be honest, is incredibly outdated, it still, you know, has a soft spot with me. I love playing around with these figures. It makes me think that Motu Classics isn't dead, so it's nice to get more of this stuff. It meshes well with, you know, the 200 figures that are sitting behind me back there. So it's an awesome figure on its own, but the fact that it goes so well with the stuff from that line and everything else that Super 7 is putting forward, it's just an awesome piece, and if you're a fan of this property, it's definitely not something to skip on. Number 8 is a figure that brought me into an entire new line. So I've had some pre-orders waiting, but this was the first figure that I've actually gotten in hand, and that would be Baron Benz and the Aquaticon. So we're talking Mezco 112 Collective. And this guy was just pretty fantastic all around, from presentation to the box to all the accessories, all the kind of other stuff that it comes with, the shirt, the coin, all that nonsense, the stuff that I normally wouldn't need but do like in this particular instance. And then of course the figure is fantastic. He moves well, I love the soft goods on him, and just everything about the design, the Jack Kirby vibes, all of the stuff that's involved here, you know, the anchor, the big glaive that he's got, the tubes that you can put on his back, the effect piece, all the little Aquaticon robots, just about everything with this figure worked for me, kind of fired on all cylinders. And while I haven't gone full bore into Mezco stuff, I have gotten another one since then. I got Space Ghost after I got this guy because I couldn't resist that anymore. Got the Nosferatu on order, and then I've got the Conan on order. So it certainly was kind of a gateway drug, I suspect, a little bit anyway, into getting more of this stuff. So the fact that it made me buy more tells you that I was a really big fan. Number 7 is kind of a cheat because it's 2 figures, and you might already know what it's going to be because of that on its own, but I could not put these guys on the list because, I mean, it's the thing. It's one of my favorite properties of all time. It's a figure that I have wanted for a while, and that would of course be Casey Jones, and our Raph in disguise from the 1990 TMNT movie line from NECA. So the only reason these guys are maybe a little bit further down on the list is because of the fact that really Casey is the main draw for me. I love getting the other Raph, but at the end of the day I would have been probably happier to just get a Casey and not have to necessarily rebuy another turtle, despite the fact that even though I said it in the review, I truly love this figure. It's fantastic. I think it would have been just fine on a single release. So, you know, we've got really fantastic figures. The sculpt is great, the paint is fantastic, all the accessories, I mean, they have tons of accessories. Casey is overloaded with sports memorabilia here, and it's just an awesome set. You know, of course, everybody and their brother's trying to get it or complaining about it or whatever, but it's a fantastic set, and there was no way it wasn't going to appear on this list at least some point. Number 6 is arguably one of my most anticipated of all NECA figures this year. From the minute he was revealed to just up until the very minute that I was able to order this thing, I've just been clamoring to get my hands on it to see exactly how cool it is, all the stuff that it comes with, the crazy design, the, of course, tribute to the original suit design. We are talking about the Alpha Predator. So, I mean, this guy is definitely, you know, in the running for top 10 of the year, no doubt about it. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't appear on that list at year's end, because this has everything that I've wanted in a Predator. It has everything that they've ever done correctly, all in one figure. I had no issues with joints. He looks fantastic. Sculpt is wild. Paint is fantastic. And he comes with just about every accessory you could think of that fits this particular style of Predator. Not to mention it has the tribute to that original Predator suit. So there's just so much cool stuff going on here. And then, of course, they packed in all kinds of goodies with the poster and the big bio sheet for this guy, which was an unexpected surprise. And I really like that kind of stuff. So presentation on its own was great. But then the figure, I mean, the figure blew me away. This is definitely probably outside of the clan leader, because there is a huge amount of nostalgia there for me, this is probably my favorite NECA Predator. They just did so many things right here. Number 5 begins a bit of a Hasbro triple threat because they all just kind of back to back to back here, and we're starting with our Star Wars figure, and we've got Darth Tyrannus Count Dooku on deck, because at the end of the day, this figure is like everything right with Black Series right now. The sculpt on the body is fantastic. The paint is really good. Soft goods are honestly still pretty good for a Hasbro cape. I've had no reason to want to really replace this one. He has what is probably my favorite photoreal application head sculpt combination in this entire line. This is about as perfect as I think it's going to get. I mean, it really looks like Christopher Lee. They absolutely annihilated the figure arts by comparison, and he has what is currently my favorite accessory in the line right now, the kind of saber slashing swooshing effect, which I just want to see it with every other figure but has yet to materialize. And I just think they absolutely knocked this guy out of the park. The only real maybe criticism is that he's got the single joint knee situation going on, but it's a very aesthetically pleasing, and it's Count Dooku, so I can give him a pass by only having a single rotating knee. He otherwise looks pretty perfect. Number 4 has made me not have any reason to ever want to buy an import Spider-Man figure, because that is the newest Spider-Man figure, the Retro Spider-Man on this amazing new body with just loads and loads of articulation. And I mean, I said it in the review, I pretty much fawned over this thing. I love everything about this figure. It's a combination of a few older parts with this amazing new torso system that they're going to hopefully implement with other figures. It's got great articulation at the neck. The paint on him is fantastic. He comes with a decent amount of accessories. You got the extra head sculpt with the different eyes, but everything about this guy is what I wanted in a Spider-Man for so long. I don't feel the need to spend more because I normally don't do that anyway when it comes to Marvel stuff, so this made it pretty easy for me. I don't have to buy a $90 Mafex Spider-Man or anything like that. I've got exactly what I need right here for 20 bucks, and it's pretty solid. Number 3 ends the run from Hasbro with what is, I mean, this is easily one of the biggest figures of the year for one of the biggest lines of the year, and you probably know where I'm going with this because I haven't talked about it yet. We're talking G.I. Joe, we're of course talking Snake Eyes, and I'm going to be specific and say the deluxe version because I like the idea of him not being entirely blacked out, and I love all of the extra stuff that release came with. I also love the box, and I also love the fact that it was only $40, so the price point on that incredibly deluxe set was just too perfect to not factor into how good this release is. But the figure on its own, of course, is amazing. I'm a big fan of the Joe line as it stands right now, but outside of Destro, this is the one that stands out by a wide margin. Articulation is through the roof. Paint is really good. Accessories for the figure in general in this release are really nice. You know, you get a little bit more real world type of accessories with this guy, and I just love everything about it. I'm admittedly not a huge Joe fan as far as toys go, but I love the cartoon, and this is exactly what I have wanted for a very long time. A really solid 6-inch Joe line, and this was the best possible way to start it. Number 2 was going to be NumberOne up until, well, a certain point this year when a figure just came along that has absolutely blown me away in every aspect. But number 2 is another Super 7 figure, and it is the Masters of the Universe entry in this list. And I was really debating if it was going to be Motu Origins or Motu Classics. But at the end of the day, it had to be this figure because of how important it is to me. So number 2 is our God Skeletor, so our Golden God Skeletor, because I love this movie. I love this movie so much. I love these designs, and I love this particular design of Skeletor. It was really hard, at least as far as this list goes, to not have He-Man and Skeletor on here because I've said it a million times, I unapologetically, unironically love the He-Man movie. I love Dolph Lundgren as He-Man, and that figure is pretty fantastic, but this figure is just perfect in execution. The gold is fantastic, the sculpt is amazing. I mean, this Langella Skeletor is everything I wanted it to be, and then some. So there was no way he was not going to appear on this list. It was really only a matter of how high he was going to be. So that brings us to number 1, and I think I might have actually mentioned this in the review for this figure, that there was very little chance that this figure wasn't going to appear on my top 10 and that it was already in the running for number 1 because it hits me on just every level. Number of accessories, articulation, sculpt, likeness, well, as far as it goes to a cartoon, and then just nostalgia. That's obviously a huge thing for me. So number 1, and there's a good chance this guy might ride it out for the year, is the Sentinel Toys Rio of the Wildfire from Ronin Warriors. This guy just, I mean, it has it all for me. This is everything I wanted in this figure. Again, it moves perfectly. Even with all the armor on it, it still moves really well. Tons of accessories, tons of options, and just the overall look and feel is so perfect. It looks like it jumped right out of the show. And the only real negative is that it's incredibly expensive, but at the end of the day, I had no problem paying for it, and I was happy with my purchase. I mean, when I got this thing, I just could not put it down. It's still very much something that I play around with. 6-7 weeks later, it's still something that I just pick up and pose or mess around with because it's so much fun and it is everything that I wanted it to be, and I can only hope that the other figures are coming sooner rather than later. So yeah, that is my current top 10 list, with of course the caveat of there only being 1 per license here. When the actual top 10 list at the end of the year comes along, it's basically free run for everything, but as far as where I stand on certain licenses, you kind of know what I'm going for here. So let me know what you guys think. I'm curious what you think of some of these placements and where things kind of stand up, and let me know what your guys' top 10, top 5, whatever, top favorite figure of the year so far is. So yeah, I'll catch you next time.